It's really exciting. Whoopsie.
Sorry.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this webinar. So I'm really excited about presenting this today because I think it's one of those topics that, there's the theory of this and how linear and straightforward it is, and then there's the reality of it. And like most things in small business, when you get into it, you realize that not everything's as simple as it sounds. And this is probably one of the more complicated areas of running a business. So I'm really excited. I'd love to say to you that I've always been amazing at this. In reality, I've had my hits and misses. And if anything, like I can share with you some of the things that I've done wrong and some of the things that I've done right. And hopefully you'll get some value for yourself out of this webinar today. So let's get into it. So first question is, every business owner, if you're in business, you've got challenges, it's guaranteed. So if I was to ask you a question right now, what is the biggest challenge in your business? What would be the answer? What's the number one thing right now sitting here that you're challenged with? Who'd like to share?
Finding good staff.
Okay.
Yeah, and reliable ones that are actually invested in what you want to do. And I guess it's a hard thing when a lot of the coaches are on a part-time basis and they do have other employment, so they're dividing their time and they're not as invested into the workplace as what we are as owners. And I think that's a difficult thing to find in staff.
Yep. Zach, you had a comment as well?
So just my own time. So I'm the head coach and the manager of the gym, and I've got an owner above me, and sort of I've got a lot of responsibilities on my plate. But then within budgeting, being able to delegate like coaching hours to other staff or other tasks to other staff. So that's probably my biggest thing in the business.
Okay. So is the biggest challenge right now. There's a combination, like when you're listening to anyone say anything, there's always the subtle things you're hearing. So what I'm hearing is, finding good, reliable staff. So reliable points to that's one of the values that you're looking for in your people. Finding people that are invested in your business. So there's a level of commitment and passion that we're looking for, and an expectation that we're looking for in our staff. So it's not like we just want them to come in after hours and clean for an hour and see you later. It's more than that. It's a higher level of investment. And Zach, you've mentioned there's an owner, so you're in an interesting situation because you're a manager, and you are, in some ways restricted or limited by the resources you're provided with in your role, and the permission you have to just go there and do what you want to do as well. Are those some of the themes we've picked up?
Yeah, very accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And you guys what's great about today is that I know who you are, right? So I know the sort of people that you are and the way that you roll as a CrossFit coach. Whether you're a manager or an owner, there's a certain culture, right, around performance, around effort. There's a whole lot of things that I already know about you because I know that you're a CrossFit coach and you're on a webinar on a Wednesday. So I also know that you're kind of like, a 1% of the 1%. Yeah. So just as a statement first up, I'm going to say,
I appreciate that.
I'm going to say this, right? You're not normal. So no, you're not normal people. And you would know this, right? Because wherever you go, you're kind of like a little bit more full on than the average person. And the way that you roll is not the average kind of, bear. Am I right?
Yeah. Very correct.
And the same for me too, by the way, right? I've always been the same. So, and herein lies the first theme of the challenge is finding people that, ideally they're like us in some way, yeah? But reality is they are them. We've got to find a way of attracting the right people for our business. So let's get stuck into it. So here's a little funny slide, just get started. Like, that's me. That's an example of someone at the start of a business and that's someone after probably 2 years of running a business, I'd say. It's about
we love memes
right.
here. That's very welcome.
I love memes, yeah. So why use language when you use memes? And look, that's the thing, isn't it? And by the time you realize that it's bloody hard, it's got its hooks into you and you're into business and it's like too late. If I'd known how much it was going to take to build a team, Perhaps, I don't know, would you have rethought? I don't know. But it is really a challenge. And I just want to be upfront about that. And look, it is the same across all businesses. And I work with other businesses outside of the fitness industry. And I can tell you that any business owner will say to you, the biggest challenge that we face is finding the right staff. And, when you're starting a business, it's like, the biggest challenge is getting leads, getting customers, cash flow, they're always issues, right? But staff can really make or break your business. And here's another little quote, a great employee is like a four-leaf clover, hard to find, lucky to have, right? So what we are looking for here is this sort of this thing that could really make our entire business work really well, and in turn make our life work really well as well, because having great employees or great team members makes running a business amazing. And now I've been in business committed full-time business for 21 years. I started from nothing. I started by turning my part-time enjoyment of fitness into a side hustle, but it was called a part-time job back then. My goal was to earn enough money from my aerobics classes to pay for my sneakers and aerobics cassette tapes, right? That's how old school I am. So that was my goal. Oh, if I could earn enough money and possibly if I could get free gym membership, loving it. Now, the gym owner would have looked at me and gone, how would the gym owner perceive me? I had a full-time job, was earning really good money in the mining sector. And here I am just floating in, floating out, not a care in the world. Hi ladies, let's do our fat burner class today. Yeah, I'm awesome. See yous. That was me. That's how I started. Yeah. And the thing that happened with me is that I had a life-changing experience where I went, you know what? This is actually this thing changes, like doing this changes lives. So I got a glimpse of my life purpose going, I want to change lives. And the fitness industry is the place where you actually do that. So I flipped from, part-time dabbler to full-time employee. Well, it wasn't full-time employee. It was like full-time commitment to fitness. And then that was 20 years ago. And I've got to tell you, out of 20 years, there's been years where I've made less than a basic wage, well less. And there's been a few years where I've made a heap more. But most of the time, it's been less than a full-time income for twice the amount of hours that a normal person would do, right? But the reason I do it is because I do believe that what I am doing is something that is worthy and it changes lives. So the driver for me has never been money. The driver for me has been impact. But the essential part of all of that is it's hard to make an impact when you're not making enough money to survive and be comfortable. All right. So my first 5 years of business, I think, Linda, I'd already sold my business when I met you guys. Oh yeah, it was on the waterfront. I was in a waterfront trophy house. So of course, I already sold my business. But the first 5 years of business, I was all about my gyms. I'd opened up 12 locations. I was franchising. I was terrible at that because I thought my franchisees would be the same as me. They weren't. And I just put everything I made back into the business. And I got really resentful about staff because most of the time I was paying them more than I was paying myself, and they were putting in a fraction of the work. So I ended up becoming very, very hard with my staff and very kind of like, what you call it, like harsh, So if you're not here to really do the job, then see you later. Now, I would also read these books about, staff being the most important part of your business. And I'm like, how can I do that when I can't afford to pay them like lots of money? And even when I do pay them lots of money, they're lazy and are doing all the work that I want to do anyway, right? Can you relate to that? Or is it just me? Just me. Okay, fine. All right.
Yeah,
so
definitely relatable.
Okay. Okay, good. And by the way, I was like, 2000, 2005, I was like, how do you call it? Like, sort of like I had to know everything, so I didn't have a business coach or anything like that. I was working all out for myself. So when I did get a business coach in 2005, eventually I was completely broke. And I said, what should I do? And he goes, well, let's look at your business and work out how you can make it work. And the biggest problem with my business right then was finding good staff. And more than that, my franchisees finding good staff. I couldn't help my franchisees find good staff. So therefore, they were having problems and I couldn't solve it. So what he challenged me to do, and I had all these business ideas, and he said, you need to create a training system to train your own people the way you want to train them, because employing them from the marketplace wasn't working. I'd put jobs out, I'd employ them, I'd pay them, for 3 months, all this sort of stuff, and it didn't work. So he said, you need to design your own system. And that system became the Australian Institute of Personal Trainers. And what I designed for my business was that model. And then I went out to other gym owners and said, here's this model. And they used that model. And that's how I grew that business really quickly and really to become one of the market leading RTOs. And I sold that in 2011. So that was my journey. So looking at the content for today, I want to lay the foundation and say, look, some things are the same, some things have changed. But before we start, there's a few questions we need to ask. And it is like the iceberg. Before we even think about employing people, there's, in a perfect world, a few things we need to really think about below the water. And good news and bad news is a lot of it does come down to who you are and what you stand for. So beneath the surface, you individually, what are your identified core values for yourself? Like, what do you personally really stand for? And then what does your business really stand for? What are you actually doing in your business? What are you all about? And that's where a lot of the inspiration and magnetism comes in. People will work for less money if they believe in what they're doing is worthy of their time. And especially in Gen Z, they are all about making sure that they believe in what they're doing. Now, Gen Zs are in their 20s. We're talking probably about employing people in their 20s and 30s, possibly 40s and even 50s. So each person is different. But those generational things are stereotypes. So as much as they are useful, they're not necessarily the answer either. The second thing below the surface is an organizational chart. So we're going to talk about these things in more detail. So it's weird because there's just you, or maybe there's you and a few trainers, and you sort of go, well, I don't really need an organizational chart. It's a little bit, hierarchical. But what it does provide structure. And the millennials are telling us we want structure. We want to know how it's going to work because they have lived in a world of uncertainty. They are craving structure. And if you think about CrossFit, hey, it's structured. It's part of the attraction as well. The third thing below the surface is position descriptions, right? So you might be going tick, 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 I've got all these things, right? But even if you do have them, it's time to really look at them again critically and evaluate what are these things and are they useful to be updated, okay? Now, if you've got those things worked out, then of course above the water is the mechanics, the hiring process, the onboarding process, and the ongoing performance management system as well. All right, so let's have a look at you, Linda. World's best trainer, super fit. Now, a bit of a super mum. Now, when did you read the textbook on being a boss? Maybe you had some inspiration from your bad bosses or your good bosses. Maybe the whole reason you got into the fitness industry, like me, because you had a really bad boss and thought, you know what, I'm going to go and do something completely different, right? So before we sort of delve into this, think about, I guess, think about what do you think makes an awesome boss, an awesome person to work for? What are 2 or 3 things that you think make an amazing boss? I'll start with Renee because she's on mute. She can come off mute.
Someone that's easy to get along with and is going to allow the staff to have an input into what goes on within the business as they grow themselves, giving them some scope to develop themselves personally within the business, and someone that's flexible and I guess easygoing, which
okay, very good. I love it. Okay, Belinda, what about you? What are some of the things that make a great boss for you?
I guess you want someone that's fairly approachable so that communication lines are going to be open.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that's a good leader and is I guess leading by example as well.
Mm. Okay. And Zach?
Yeah, I think someone who's just willing to communicate openly, sort of show you the way and then sort of communicate what they want clearly, and then sort of try and get the best out of you as well at the same time.
Interesting. And do
I'll
you
also jump
think?
in and just
Yep.
mention, sorry, Jess has also joined us here if you want to
Hey,
check in and
Jess.
say hi.
You can
Sorry,
add
she's a
anything,
little
Jess.
late.
Yeah, jump in.
Thank you.
What makes a great boss?
I think someone that is flexible and empathetic, and someone who has good communication skills, but also someone who is still actually doing the job themselves. So, you actually see them out on the floor, you see them programming, you see them doing whatever your job is, wherever you may work. They're also still doing some of that as well.
Okay. Interesting. And do you guys, just before we go any further, do you have staff? So Renee, do you want to just run through, do you have staff at the moment, Renee?
We're down to currently myself and one other staff member. So we're in a bit of a place at the moment where I will be looking to put someone else on. One of our other coaches left because he had too many other work commitments going on. And then the other one sort of just went off the rails and lack of communication and became unreliable. So just one of those situations.
And what about you, Linda?
We've got, including myself, 10 coaches on board.
10 coaches, yeah. Okay. And Jess?
We have just got Dan and myself.
Dan and you?
Yeah.
And then Zach?
So I've got two staff that I can I've got two staff and 3 sort of training or intern coaches.
3 interns, okay, gotcha. Okay, very interesting. So just reflecting on what you said about being a great boss, oh my God, like the things you said about what you think makes a great boss is what you would value in a boss, right? So you would like those things. So you would like easy to get along with, empathetic, flexible, easygoing, blah, 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 right? All that stuff is what is because what we're trying to do is we want to be the sort of person that we would like to work for, okay? Now, can you see there's a conflict between getting good, reliable staff and being easygoing and empathetic? No? Or is it rhetorical? No one's answering me. And so I think we'll keep moving on. So I think what I'm saying here is that we're going to look at your business from purely a role-based approach rather than what is required to be an effective leader of a highly effective business. Okay. And there's just certain things that you need to step into as an identity to be effective, just like when you move from being a participant of a CrossFit class to being a coach of a CrossFit class. Yeah, there's a shift, isn't there? Okay. So there's a certain level of edge that you bring to the conversation when you move into being a boss. And the very first thing that I had to deal with was just embracing that, guess who is the boss? I'm the boss. Okay, this is how we operate here. These are my expectations here. And it is hard when you're looking at your timetable and going, man, I'm taking all of these classes. I just need somebody to give me a break. And then what you settle for is just somebody who's available. And you go, look, it's fine, come on in. I just need a hand. I really appreciate it. And then you realize that you try to change that relationship by putting in place expectations around that person. They go, well, you've really changed. Like, you're becoming a little bit, expecting me to perform now, and you sort of like, we're grateful for me helping. And, how's that shift going? And often that's where you'll lose. The honeymoon period expires and they go, I don't like it anymore. It's no fun. You're no fun. And you're being all needy and expecting me to turn up on time and stuff like that. Whereas, I thought I was special. I thought I was different. So I can ask this question, and perhaps there's a question you can ask of your trainers that would be really insightful to say, what is great about working with me? What do you think is great about working with you? Right? You're going to have an answer for this question, I bet. I think what's great about working with me is X. But my challenge to you is to ask your team this question: what is great about working with me? And then the next question you can ask is, what really sucks about working with me? if you're brave enough, right? And in that answer, there's some real gold to work with as a boss. All right. So that's the values. So we're looking at here core values. So, you know, in your answers, I would suggest that some of you would say things like, I'm reliable, I'm committed, I'm flexible, I'm easygoing, I'm empathetic, I walk my talk, I have integrity, I lead by example. So there's 3 or 4 main core values that you represent. And it's really important for you to crystallize these core values and understand them, because this is what we're going to be doing, is attracting people to those core values. And then looking at your business and going, well, my core values are X, Y, and Z. The core values of our business is ABC. And they may be the same. And look, if you're an owner operator, they are the same. But if you're going to create a business that is eventually going to be run by somebody else, those core values will live on beyond your tenure as at the helm. Okay, so that's one of the tasks that we need to identify. So maybe before we move on, if you want to take yourself off mute, I'll just get maybe one person to share. What are your core values, and what sort of words spring out when you think of that question? Maybe I'll start with Belinda, because I can see you down there.
Sorry, my mouse froze. I couldn't get unmute
That's
off.
right. What are your personal core values, Belinda?
Oh, personal core values, I guess. Honesty, reliability, hardworking.
Yeah, you are hardworking. And it's been a long journey to get to where you've gotten to, and a lot of setbacks, you know, so no one ever knows that. That's the iceberg, isn't it?
Yeah.
Honest, reliable, and hardworking. Honest, reliable, and hardworking. Core values. Very good, very clear. Honest, reliable, hardworking. And then what about, would you say, if you looked at your trainers, would you say that they are, if you put the test over them and said, are they honest? Are they reliable? Are they hardworking?
Yes.
And if you looked at your clients, would you say they're aspiring to be honest, reliable, and hardworking?
Not all.
Not all.
Yes.
Some are there for other reasons.
Yeah, look, I think a variety of reasons, I guess. And I guess that's CrossFit too. We have such a big mix. You've got people that come for just general fitness. You've got other people that are there for competition. So, but I'd say the majority have those values.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's right. Now, in your catchment, you've got F45, for example.
Yeah.
Different values, different crowd. You know, it's a different sort of theme. So you're attracting, you've attracted trainers to your core values, and those, if any of those trainers didn't comply with that core, the behavior wasn't complying with those values, it's just straight out the door. You know, it's not going to work.
Mm.
Yeah. Renee, what about you? You're a +1. You've got yourself and another person at the moment. How do they stack up in your core values? What are your core values, and how do they stack up against those?
Very similar to Belinda. Same, hardworking, reliable, committed, loyal to everything that I do, and very honest, and integrity is high on that.
Yeah.
And I always like to lead by example.
Yes. Okay, good. So it sounds like you guys have had some thinking about this. And when I ask this question, have you got this, is this sort of visually clear to your trainers? Would they say the same thing about you? Is it something that you bang on about in your business all the time, about honesty, reliability? Do you say these words out loud, or is it assumed?
Probably don't say them enough, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You probably did when you started a lot, I'd say, when you're getting everything going. But even if I hear that, like, you know, you talk about being a good boss, honesty, reliability, and hardworking. Yeah, I'm up for that. I love the idea of working with someone like that. But I don't go, oh, flexible, empathetic. What else was there? Approachable. Yeah. They're sort of a bit mundane. I want a boss that's going to go, yeah, my boss is hardworking, reliable, and honest. Yeah, that's an inspiring person. I would, I'd cross broken glass for that boss for sure. Because what we're doing here is we're talking about, we're not doing a job here that's like, you know, oh, look, no one cares about. We're talking about a job that requires your very best. Even if you're only doing a few classes a week, our business and our clients and I expect this delivery. And it's really hard sometimes to sort of sell out on that. You go, well, it's okay. If you can get here at this time, fine, we'll work around you. No. You've got to have high expectations. You're better off having no staff than having staff that aren't complying with your expectations. And that's probably the big message I'd say to you. And when I got that message back in 2005, man, we just went from struggle to success really quickly.
We talk a lot about giving each member the best hour of their day. Basically, come in for their hour class, and that's one thing I do push to my coaches is that you want to make sure we're giving them the best hour of their day.
Yeah, that's right. And so we're now moving into the next question. So we're looking at organizational chart. So do you guys have? So let's take from Zach. Do you have an organizational chart, Zach, like a diagram?
Do we have one in place at the moment?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And what about you, Jess? Do you have an organizational chart in your business?
No, we don't.
Yeah. So when I did this in my business, there was myself and Wendy and our fox terrier, Rascal, and a lady came in once a week. That was our business in Shepherd Street, Brighton, Belinda.
Yeah.
And we were the Australian Institute of Personal Trainers, and I had to write, I did my organizational chart, and actually I didn't even know half the stuff that I did. and I drew it up, and it was actually 17 distinct separate jobs that were happening in the business, like 17. And I think I was doing, well, honestly, Wendy was doing 16 of them. But we were doing all these jobs, and it was sort of like falling over each other. And it was like, there was account keeping, and there was marketing, and there was all these different things happening. And I needed to get staff, but I had this sort of unclarified job description. So the organizational chart, I want you to draw it up and draw yourself at the top. And your role is actually, Zach, you'll have a person at the top, which is the owner of the business. So that's the business, that's like the box at the top. And then you'll have underneath that like a dotted line. And then you have you as head coach. And then you have below that all the different roles that need to be done to make the business work really well. Okay. Now, as an owner, the owner might have like, owner, and they might have out to the side finances or whatever that they have away from you. But you get the idea. It's just time to draw up your organizational chart. And there's heaps of examples online and things like that. But really, this is kind of like the chart that you have now, and possibly that will serve you for the next, 3 to 6 months. So it's just crystallizing that diagram. And it's unashamedly top down. The buck stops with the person at the top, and then so forth and so on. Okay. What I found in my businesses has been that often I'll have a real like hybridization of roles that don't really make sense. So by doing this organizational chart, you'll have roles in there that you've lumped together that don't really kind of make sense. They're just things that you've just evolved over time. Okay. So what I want to do is take them apart and separate them out. And also, we had roles in there that I didn't even know. I remember employing a qualified accountant in my business. And that was a moment where I went from being, look, I've done every single job in this place, and I'm giving you this one job. Like, you've got one job to do. When I did your job, I also did 10 things, and you're doing one thing. How hard is that? Super easy, right? So the way that you did the job is the way you did the job, but you didn't document it necessarily because you just did it the way you thought you did it. Now this person has to walk into that job and do it the way that they think it's been done. So just one homework task is to draw up your chart. I'm not going to give you the chart because there's lots of different ways to do it. The main thing is to really have those job titles clarified. And you might find that you've got people that are doing 2 or 3 jobs, and that's perfectly okay as well. But as you grow, as you move from having 1 staff to 10, obviously having 10 trainers, there's management leadership roles that now start to emerge that require a little bit of hierarchy, a little bit of control as well. Okay, before we move on to the next, any questions on organizational charts or any comments? Renee? Look like I can see one in your brain forming up.
No, I'm just writing some notes for myself at the moment and sort
Okay.
of sketching
The chart. And it can be really
chart out.
it can be really inspiring too, because you go, this is where we're heading. We're we're going to be growing our organization. And what about you, Zach? You've got a head coach role, so you've got your interns and you've got your 2 trainers.
I beg your pardon. What was that?
Do you have an organizational chart in your business?
But it's just running, doing, or what I should be doing and what I should be giving other people to do, sort of thing. That's just all running through my mind. So I'll have to write it up.
Look, and by the way, guys, obviously this is like a little bit of a thought-provoking webinar. Obviously, after this, we can get in touch and we can talk more personally about things, and I'm happy to do that. Okay. All right. Next step is position descriptions. So, this is where we start to really get some detail around it. And what I found I would do in employing staff is I'd just go, look, just do what I do, watch what I do. And by doing a position description, we're really depersonalizing this, and we're saying, this is the job title, these are the expectations required, and these are the performance outcomes needed. And this really helps you to choose the right people, because we're all suckers, we're all people-orientated people. So we find a person and go, oh, you know what, you'd be great. Let's get started. Just take a couple of classes a week and off we go. But you hit this roadblock when you realize that they're not necessarily the right person for the job. They're just a person that was available right then, and you didn't really take the time to clarify exactly what was expected of the job. So if you do have position descriptions, go back and refresh them. If you don't have them, then of course that's the job to be done. And even if you only have yourself and your partner running the business, it's still worth clarifying the position descriptions, because there's a lot of things that are being done that perhaps could be given to somebody else to do. Could be accounting, could be marketing. You can start to outsource things once they're being clearly identified in the job description as well. All right. Oh, the other thing to check in, I had this client who was a professional speaker and an author, and she wanted a personal assistant, right? So I'm like, no worries, first job, I did all this stuff, who are you and what do you stand for and what do you want? She wrote this job description, and it was amazing. It had, needs to be able to do marketing online and traditional, write radio scripts, needs to also do copywriting, producing learning materials, needs to organize events, needs to also help out around the house. And if my children are at home, can take care of them, can do healthy lunch boxes. And it was like, this person doesn't exist. This is like 10 people. So just be aware that when you look at the job description in black and white, and you think to yourself, gosh, is this actually a job that can be done by anybody? Maybe this is actually 2 or 3 jobs that I've put into one job description as well. Okay, now we're getting into the probably the stuff that everyone talks about, the selection criteria. Now, this is the theory of the letterbox theory. So we talked before about your core values, and what we're doing now is looking at, okay, in the selection criteria, what gets into the business? What are we accepting into our business? Okay. And when you look out there and just see like this sea of people and possibilities, if you've got children, you know what this is. Where's Wally, right? And you can't see Wally because you're just looking at all these different applicants. You're not really sure what you're looking for. What we need to do is to really kind of clarify our ideal person. Okay. So here are some of the things that we're going to ask. Number one, what are the personality traits? We'll go through these really quickly, then we'll discuss them. So what are the personality traits? I put that number one, actually. I think the most important thing when I'm looking for a staff member is just who they are as a person is number one for me. Number two for me is skills and experience. And I'm talking about not resume experience that's often overinflated. I'm talking about observed or demonstrated skills and experience. So people can say, oh, I've got great communication skills. I've got great people skills, right? And then you look at them and they're like not talking to anybody, and you go, oh, it's different when I'm feeling comfortable. I'm just. So it's what you can observe and what you can see in reality is important to me. So if they're a CrossFitter and they've been coming to your gym, to your CrossFit box, then of course they can lift. They've got good technique. They understand what CrossFit is. So they're miles ahead of somebody who hasn't done that. So of course, that's going to be important. Commitment and availability is very, very important. And I have them worded in that way: commitment and availability, in that order. Very important. Because if you are committed to something, you will make yourself available for the thing. Needs and expectations. We're now getting into what do they need and what do they expect. Okay. And clarifying that. And then finally, anything else you can think of. Right. So we'll go from Jess first. Jess, have you got answers to these questions for your ideal person?
I think we very much look at the person first before we look at anything else. So I guess we, similarly to what you said, it is about what the person's bringing, and like the rest can be taught. Like, you can teach someone how to, teach how to do a lift and things like that. But if those core values aren't there and aren't aligned, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Okay. And have you got these documented in your recruitment?
No, we don't.
Yeah. So you probably you sort of interview them and go. You sort of interview them and you observe them and you go, okay, they're sort of this and that, and sort of go from there. So it's definitely worth actually. And one of the ways of doing this is to create an avatar of. If you look at your really successful, the most successful trainer, you just boil that up and distill it and go, well, what were the personality traits of that person? And then you've got your template. And
I think we know what we want, but you're right, it's not on paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're leaving yourself kind of exposed when you don't have it written down, because you're just going, we're all nice people. We want to be nice and liked and things like that as a boss. But this makes it less, what do you call it? It makes it more less subjective and more objective.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that medium-sized businesses employ human resource people, because the boss is a sucker for optimistic. They'll be fine. There are a few glitches, but that's fine. Whereas the HR person just screens them for the personality traits. That is, just does behavioural profiling to the max before they even get to the job interview stage or the second interview stage. And it's one of the hardest things as being a small business owner is you're kind of like, you want people to, you want to help people. You're a coach. So you think any glitches, you're like, I'm a coach. I can whip them into shape. I can get them committed. I can teach them this, teach them that. But it's hard work, and they're not paying you to do that. You're paying them to change them, which is, doesn't make any sense. Okay, very good. We'll take it from who else wants to share? Maybe Belinda, you've got a few in your team, so I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think definitely when you're training from within, like there's a couple of members who we have trained up, and they've gone through basically an internship with us and then gone through all their professional training and have become coaches. So you've got time to get to know them, look at their personality traits. But I think it's a lot harder when you're bringing a new person in and interviewing them, because you have say an hour interview and you've got to try and make that call within that time. So, lucky we've only, I guess there's been a couple of coaches that we've had to interview and employ, and, we've had pretty good luck so far, which is good. But, I haven't worked in HR and I can't profile everyone and that kind of stuff. So that it's tough, sort of that personality trait, I think is a tough area if you're, bringing in fresh people.
It's worth look, and what happens in this, what you do is you would select a couple of personality profiling tools, really simple. They're readily available online. So you can get some personality profiling and behavioral profiling. So look at things like the disc profile, look at things like Belbin's team roles, and maybe pick 2 or 3 and give them to you. And this is a really good exercise anyway for alignment. Give them to your current staff and just do the exercise on your current staff and see what comes back. And then you've got your avatar, you've got your template for future staff as well. And even doing like looking at the least successful of your team, it'll show up as being, well, the reason that these people are successful is because of their their responses. And so then you can use that tool as a pre-screening tool, or because once they're in front of you, you kind of go on. It's like, look, a job interview. Yep, you sort of sitting there going, this person seems okay. I think we'll give them a chance. And kind of once they're in your business, it's kind of like now you're working with them. So you want to try and keep that screened if you can. And look, once again, if the person really wants to work for you and they're committed, they're going to do that online test. They're going to do that pre interview questionnaire. Okay. So what else? Skills and experience. Well, I think there's a theme here that, it's a hero's journey. People come into the CrossFit ecosystem. They start to get fitter. They fall in love with it. They become advocates of CrossFit. And then ultimately, they will end up working as a CrossFit coach, probably. Commitment and availability is black and white, before we get started. And the word commitment can mean different things to different people, right? So for some people, commitment is, look, I might try and get there if I get a chance, right? That's committed. Others are like, no matter what, I'm going to be there. So your level of commitment is, I can guarantee, higher than the average person, because you're in leadership roles and you're in business ownership roles. So you got to remember that the commitment of staff to your business will be unlikely to exceed your commitment to the business, and that's okay, right? But what we've got to do is produce what is the base level of commitment that we'll accept. Okay. So, for example, when in the early days of AIPT, if we had a base level of commitment that you had to be at work on time, so not 15 minutes, not just on time. So when the clock struck 8 o'clock, you were there and you were ready to go, right? Or if you're running late for any reason, you had to call and let me know before 8 o'clock, right? And that was something that we just stuck to. And it meant sometimes people turn up past 8 o'clock and they had to go home, had the day off. So it was really not very flexible, not very empathetic, but we did produce a very high performance environment by doing that. CrossFit, of course, you can't turn up late. It's just going to be not workable. Okay. Any other comments there? Let's hear from Jess. So Jess, what are your comments on that list? Are you there? I can't see Jess, so maybe she's gone.
Jess is usually on lunch from her full-time job, so she may be,
gotcha.
Yeah,
that's okay. Do you want to add anything to that, Hannah?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of curious, given that I guess Belle and Zach both have the internship kind of path consideration, and it probably speaks a lot to what you've mentioned with personal traits being more important than skills and experience.
Yeah.
And that a person's approach and attitude probably weighs higher than their actual qualifications, for example.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know your thoughts on the efficacy of an internship as a path to getting staff that are either a better fit or a best fit. Yeah,
I'm a big believer in, to be honest, that's my realization after all this time. It's the way to go. And I'll come down to that. In fact, that's probably one of my points of this presentation. So I'll come down to that. Just a couple of comments about this as well. So you've probably seen this sort of stuff before. Millennials, Generation Y, Generation X, baby boomers. And it's really interesting, the stereotypes about this. But there's also individuality as well. But, I don't know what age groups what's that, 81, 96. What age groups are you recruiting from? Renee, what do you have a particular age group that you recruit coaches in? Is a certain age or?
Not really. Most of them have been sort of mid to late 20s. One of the coaches that's left was my age, which is early 40s.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back to, I've gone full circle and tried sort of various approaches of going with highly skilled and experienced people, which, on paper looked good. But then when I gave them some time in the gym, their personality and their personal traits didn't fit our core values. So it it didn't work. So yeah, see you later to them. And then that was quite early on in the piece, probably within the first year or two. And then that's when I went, no, whoever I'm going to employ. And it took me probably a good 2 years to trust people enough to employ other people. And because I did it myself initially for that first 2 years, because I just couldn't find the right person or people that fit those values. So I was like, I'll suck it up and do it myself until those people come along, because I don't want anyone ruining my business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and look, one of the things I didn't say at the outset, there's two models here. One is called a practice. So a practice is where effectively you're the main person in the business, right? And the people who come along and work for you kind of like assist, but you're still the main person involved. So that's like you plus one, maybe two other people helping out. That's a practice. And a business is a thing that effectively a business is a thing that you could sell. And someone would say, look, the owner doesn't even go there anymore, or is minimal in contact. And so often we start our business as a practice, and then we have to transform it. And actually, that's what's inherently in this whole presentation is a transition from being a practitioner to a business owner. So things like crystallizing the values of the organization, documenting those, having the organizational chart, and having and your name not appearing on an organizational chart, just like in Zach's case, the owner is off the chart. And so that's what we're talking about. These are the things that have to be put into place to effectively build a business so that you can be a business owner. And you might choose to still work in that business, but effectively the thing has been designed to not require you to be there. Okay. So that's a real switch, given that we all started with wanting to do something we're passionate about. It's now going, actually, what I want to do now is be a business owner, and I want to employ people who want to work in that business. And I've got to find somebody. And I had to find a CEO for my business, which I hadn't even worked out how to do yet. And I had to recruit pay someone $20,000 to go and find a CEO. And they chose someone. I'm like, okay, no problem. So it was really weird. So there's a bit of a change in mentality around that as well. So just be aware that you're sort of not looking for something that doesn't exist as well. There is only one of you, and there's no unicorn that's going to come and do everything that you do. They would be a business owner. So we've got to keep our expectations in check. All right, let's talk about how to attract applicants. So there's a traditional way of attracting applicants. There's a job up on Seek or something like that. And here's a couple of examples of jobs that are available today if you're looking for a job. So you can see here, the one on the top is, these are for the fitness industry. So this one's offering like an hourly rate. Be part of the next big thing in fitness, work in a fun, upbeat atmosphere where every day is different, receive ongoing support and training. Okay, next one. Looks like no rent, steady flow of new leads, opportunity to grow in the fitness industry, energetic, knowledgeable and results driven, wanted for an immediate start in North Redfield. So sounds like I'm going to be running my own personal training business from that facility and not paying rent. And then down the bottom, there's a job here, $45,000 plus super. Sounds like a bit full time. So this is sort of what you see out there, and you can get better at writing these different job descriptions. But it's just one modality of advertising. I'd be interested in hearing your experiences. Has anyone tried to advertise on Seek or through conventional media for applicants? Zach, have you done that?
No, and our business hasn't. I don't think ever, to be honest.
Hasn't ever. How do you normally advertise for staff?
So we've only ever recruited from within. So
okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
The coaches we've got has been like a natural development.
Yeah.
Or progression through their own life and experience into that role.
What about you, Belle?
So we have before, but it's through CrossFit. So CrossFit HQ or CrossFit ANZ has a job board that you can advertise on.
Yep.
Which basically all CrossFit affiliates have access to.
Yep.
So we advertised on that. I actually had about 3 different coaches call me back, which was good. So Yeah, we found one of our newest coaches through that, and he's currently working 20 plus hours a week for us.
Oh, good. Okay. And what about you, Renee?
Same as Belinda, just use the CrossFit
Okay.
ANZ forum and then just word of mouth through Facebook as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
Previously.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, Facebook's now got a really good little functionality for its job board, which is quite good. Look, and the thing about this is that you guys are really already demonstrating that attraction part. So here's an example of one of the organizations that we work with, and they've got, this guy, John and Travis, have got 15,000 members in their Facebook group. And how long do you think it takes for them to get a person to work for them when they go, hey guys, looking for a person to join our team? It takes no time at all. Bang, applications everywhere. And because they're fans of these guys, it's like, wow, I get to work with these guys that I really admire and trust and like. So that's what you guys have all been doing already. So that doesn't seem to be a major challenge for you. The onboarding process, sometimes, and I sense, Renee, maybe you've been through something similar to me where you've put your heart and soul into staff, and then the next time you go, you know what, I don't really have too much to give, just get in there and do it. And I don't know, I've sort of swung between these two extremes of really putting everything into training up people, onboarding them. Other times I've gone, you should know your stuff, get in there and give them a little bit of lead and let them just have a sink or swim. Hey, can you relate to that?
Yes, definitely. Both ends of the spectrum.
I was thinking, I hope she has, because I'm like, maybe I'm a really crap boss.
No. I've gone
Tell us
either
more
end of
about.
it.
Tell us about some of the examples of you really kind of like going like full on in terms of the support and onboarding, like best practice.
Initially, like in that first couple of years when I decided to bring staff on board, just went through all those onboarding processes and gave them, every opportunity to do everything and show me everything that they had. And this was when I was going through the stage of the skills and experience above the personality and their core values, and that didn't work. And then
and that can, when you think about that example, what happened after that? Like when it didn't work out, what were you left feeling?
A bit deflated and just what would be the right word? Disappointed, I suppose. That this person on paper was not they were, I guess at the end of the day, the ego and the self-centeredness was exposed in that particular person. And I was like, I do not want you part of my gym.
And, it's interesting because, as you said, it was when you're early in your business ownership and, effectively you're treating this person like a client. It is all about them, and you're being the dream boss. It doesn't work out. Disappointment, resentment. And then the next time you go to recruit, how does it look? That pendulum swings back the other way, and tell us about what it looked like when it swung back.
When I did recruit again, I went completely the other way and decided the skills and experience was going to sit underneath the personality and the core values of them as a person, but come first and foremost. And I did find 2 really good staff members, and it was only that for family reasons they had to move back to Melbourne that I lost them. Otherwise, they probably would have still been with us today. So it then just took a while to find that right type of person again.
So what we want to create is somewhere in the middle of those two things. So we want to create an onboarding process that requires them to invest something, and then you provide them with something as well. So there's a series of steps that occur over the first, really the first 4 weeks is a critical time, but over the first 12 weeks. So we need to create a structured process to allow them to be trained, but also do some work, right? So it's a weekly process of, okay, this week 1, Here's what I want. I'm going to give you a bit of training. Here's what I want you to deliver. Okay, well done. You delivered that. Here's some more training development. So you're going to match that and spread that out over time. And that process will also filter out anybody that's not committed for the long term as well. The internship strategy, you guys have already hit the nail on the head. And the thing about the internship strategy is it just starts with finding the right person and then interviewing them for the job, creating an initial training plan, which is to get them qualified really quickly, and customizing that for your business. So effectively what's happening is you've got your own internal systems that they're going to learn, and they'll get qualified along the way. All right. So for example, I know in the fitness industry, one of the big things is that gym owners want the trainers to be very good at customer service and sales. It's one of the really important things. So for example, week one, they might, for example, include you need to do a member survey, ask our members what they're enjoying about the gym, go and talk to them. Some tasks that are going to teach them about the business, but also add some value to the business as well. And possibly some things that are outside their comfort zone. But along the way, they're picking up the qualification they need to be taking classes, but they're not putting the person in front of their members until they've shown and been vetted for doing the less than pleasant things in the business as well. And the culture of ongoing monthly training development. So making sure that you have a process to each month to be with recruitment, it's constantly looking at talent. Because if 3 awesome trainers walk through your door right now that were just amazing, committed, great, passionate, exciting to be around, your business would go through the roof. So rather than looking at recruiting when you need them, which is often when, like, Renee, kind of need someone right now, you're only going to get what the market's got available. So the psychology of this is to constantly look at it like a membership program where we have a process. And what I'm suggesting is you might have a 4-week training program that's your own. It's like level 0 CrossFit coach, right? For example. So you got your level 1, level 2 CrossFit coach, you got Cert 3 and Cert 4 in fitness, but you might run a 4-week training program that you create that takes anybody from anywhere and teaches them the basics of CrossFit instruction. And there's no law against that, right? So, and if they really like the idea of that, then they can invest in doing the level 1, level 2. Okay. Because when I got approached by Colleen at the Moranbah Boxing and Sporting Club, she said, honey, I got my aerobics tapes. I'll teach you how to take aerobics class. You'll be fine. And so she showed me some very basic things. And then I went and invested the money and the time to get qualified. Now I noticed that she kept doing that. Even though I was employed, she never stopped. Anybody that came to the gym that looked like they would be possibly the right trainer, she's like, hey, have you ever thought about teaching aerobics classes? She's constantly recruiting. And what that did to me, it's like when you play in a team sport, you've got your first grade, which is great, but you've also got your reserve grade. And if anybody's ever played team sport, I've been sure to find out if you've played team sport. I don't think you have, Belinda. You've always been a gymnast / solo athlete, haven't you?
Gymnastics and sport aerobics and
aerobics. Yeah. So Renee, have you played in a team sport?
Sure have. Rugby and soccer.
Rugby and soccer. What about you, Zach? Well, Zach's not. Video's not on. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. So you always have the reserves, but you also have like the under 18s or the junior development and that type of thing. So you're always sort of trying to bring people up through the system. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying.
So Zach, right? So if you're in first grade and you look at reserve grade and you see that guy and he's hungry and he's doing everything that you used to do, like running the extra laps, doing everything, and you're sitting there in first grade half comfortable, you either got to sharpen up, right? Because that guy's going to get the gig next week.
100%.
Okay.
And as a, yeah, 100%.
And this is what I worked out coming back into the industry after quite a few, 10 years basically after we sold ARPT, coming back. What's missing is the reserve grade pushing up into the first grade, right? Because and this never ends. Like if you really want to have great trainers, they need to be looking at what's coming, and you're saying, hey, look at this. We've got Mr. Honest, reliable, and hardworking, right, in reserves. And in first grade, I've got Mr. Honest, mostly reliable, and not so hardworking, right? Because that's what happens. Anybody, if you're not being challenged, if you become successful, that's when the ego creeps in, Renee. Like, I'm awesome. Renee keeps telling me I'm amazing, and my classes love me. I haven't done anything to improve myself for ages because I'm number one. Why get better? And it's part of the psychology. And I know as a business owner, all we want to do is go, look, just be a robot. Like, can you just take the classes so I can just have a break? But we have to create a culture where there's this constant talent identification, opportunity for a 4-week level 0 almost CrossFit trainer. It doesn't mean you can do anything. It's just like, if you want to learn about instructing CrossFit, then come and do our 4-week process. Week 1, we're going to teach about, I don't know, doing squats or something like that. But it's instructional. You're actually teaching them the basics of instruction. And then what happens is they're like, oh, I'm working as a dentist or whatever. I do like CrossFit. In fact, it's a bit of a passion of mine. And I love Belle. She's amazing. She's hardworking, honest, like just everything I'd love to be around. And I've given this. I've been a part of this next journey. I've seen this extra world, and that's when you identify the talent and go, look, hey, if you've enjoyed the 4 weeks, maybe it's worth investing in the level 2 and level 1, or maybe it's worth you investing in the Cert 3 and Cert 4 in fitness, and then we go from there. So, but that's made available to everybody. And if they come through the system and they come through that sort of, I guess we call it reserve grade, there's no extra work for you to do that. In fact, one of the gyms we're working with has just included those wannabe trainers in their weekly meeting with their trainers. And it's deliberately showcasing the current comfortable trainers with these upstarts that are constantly coming in, right? And what's also doing, it's creating almost like a group interview process where the new person comes on board and they're in the environment for 4 weeks, and the other trainers are like, yeah, this guy's awesome. I'd love this person to be part of our team. So it's not just you deciding, it's actually the team deciding on the person coming through. That's a really general way of describing this philosophy, but it just sort of taps into, you guys already understand the internship model, but it does tap into this first grade psychology where you're constantly looking for growth. And then as an exit or succession plan, your head coach, in your case, Zach, you're given this model to keep you fresh, and your trainers get used to you banging on about the same old stuff. So this gives you a chance to talk to new people each week or each month and take them on the process, because the stuff you're sharing is gold. It's just that your current trainers have heard it so many times, they don't realize how amazing it is. So here's an example.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a quick question that's just like spark one for me? In
Yeah.
terms of the internship model, my suspicion, and I don't know what this is based on, is that probably not a lot of people who do this kind of recruiting would have like a set training plan in place. Do you find that's quite common?
Yeah, look, and that's probably what I'd suggest. If you want to design, it's informal and unstructured. So I really feel like by formalizing it, and it's almost like, because of my experience in training education, we're an RTO, I understand that landscape and the language around it, because you can't take advantage of people either. So it's got to be like a structured internship model. But I'm actually suggesting phase 1 of the internship model is a informal qualification. So we're not going to do level 1 and level 2, because what happens is when people invest in that straight up, they have an expectation. Well, you said go and do the level 1 and level 2, and I've done that course. Where's my job? Like, there's a legality in that. But by providing an internal informal training system to move from being a client to being a trainer, there's like a mid-step. All right. Now you might just decide that I didn't realize that to be a CrossFit trainer, I had to actually, always be available. I didn't realize there was the things I didn't, the unglorious part of it. I didn't realize that was part of it. So rather than getting into the industry, I've decided, you know what? I like being a client. I don't want to be a trainer. this is my happy place. So you're knocking out that before they even become, because they're making a change from being a client who you treat as a client to now being a trainer who you're expecting to produce a result for your clients. It's like, where did you go? You were my coach and I loved it. You were always asking me how I'm going, how's my fitness, and now you're like, turn up on time, put my weight. So there's a shift in your relationship that needs to be really clearly understood by both parties as well.
And I imagine that's probably one of the potential pitfalls of the common internal recruitment method that a lot of gyms use. Like I see this all the time, even at my own. So yeah, that's probably something to really be aware of.
Absolutely. And it can go really badly because all the expectations that haven't been clearly outlined. But my point is that I think this is not a CrossFit, but this is an example. You guys understand this. Do you love CrossFit? Hey, come and join our team of trainers. Course starts on the first week 1. Starts in 2 weeks. Come along and join. And all that's going to happen is an informal weekly training program to look at possibly joining so it's a mid-step. We're not going to say commit to becoming a trainer. So Renee, there'll be people inside of your community that may be thinking about it, but it's like and look, you can market this outside of your gym. You can market, we're running a CrossFit training, a CrossFit coach training course. It doesn't have to be level 1. It's just a trial. And it's just what you think are the most important things. Week 1, what makes a great CrossFit coach? They're hardworking, they're reliable, and they are honest. Number 1. If you're not those 3 things, wrong job. Right? And you can leave now, and then the ones that stay, we're going to get into some squat training. So this is sort of the approach we take, okay? I asked the question to the F45 guys can't find staff, right? And they're constantly ringing me up saying, oh, have you got any Cert 3 graduates? And I said, well, okay, how is it possible you can go and do a Cert 3 of fitness and not be a F45 cult follower? How is that even going to work? If you haven't done F45, how is it even possible you could get into being an F45 trainer? It doesn't make any sense. And you guys understand this because CrossFit is definitely a cult. People love it. So, you're not going to go from never doing CrossFit to suddenly teaching CrossFit. Here's an example of a customization that I did for one of our customers. So there's a qualification in the fitness industry called Group Exercise Leader. So what we did was said, look, let's get them qualified in this little short qualification first before they invest in doing a Cert 3 in fitness. So you can actually change the way the course is delivered to suit your business. And that's what I do now for my main thing is to look at, okay, what is a customized approach to the training process for onboarding and then ultimately for ongoing education as well. Now, Belinda, if she's still there, she got 10 coaches. So some of those coaches need a way of sharing their knowledge so they can stay energized because they're probably on autopilot, quite comfortable with their training. So they'll be looking for a pathway to be a leader as well. So there's an opportunity in a business of that size to then elevate those coaches to become course deliverers or facilitators of education. And they need that. Otherwise, they're just going to be doing the same old stuff. Okay. So that's pretty much my content for today. My philosophy is, I reckon it comes back to what you guys have identified. Find the right person. Make sure you've got a documentation of what that looks like. So it's not just a gut feeling, it's documented. And then get them qualified, but also make sure you do it in a step approach so that they can invest some time in their training and then you can take them from the floor and safely get them into your business. And vice versa, the guys that are there in your business that are getting comfortable and lazy, you need that reserve grade coming through constantly, knocking on the door to sharpen them up. Because one of the hardest things that I found in my business was having a B grade trainer, but having no option to replace them and knowing that I had to be the person to take back over all their clients or all their classes and then hopefully find somebody else to take over. So much easier when there's a person that's been shadowing and all the members know them nor clients know them. And then it's seamless. If the person starts to wobble, become unreliable, become self-centered, egocentric, hey, great news. The guy that you've seen training with us is going to take his first class next week. Okay. Does that make sense?
Would it be correct to say that it seems like a lot of hiring decisions are driven reactively rather than proactively, and that flipping that is really what gets the benefit?
Yeah, I think it's you got to come from a position of strength. And right now, Belinda sounds like she's in a strong position, right? She's got, sounds like it is 10 coaches. Sounds amazing. She's sitting there with probably a fluffy golden retriever at her feet, drinking coffee.
That'd be back.
So the irony of it is that while you're in a position of strength, now is the time to continually attract new people when you have no need to. Unfortunately, if tomorrow the 9 people walk out of Belinda's door, she's recruiting from a position of weakness. Okay, so the recruitment of always looking for talent, always recruiting them, always onboarding them, and if you can say no to good people, you're in a good position, actually, right? So it's all about a process. It's all about having the system, and I'm a big advocate of if you create like a short burst of education, which is effectively part of your recruitment funnel, and then Belinda and her business with 10, there's time that, you might have your 4 best people. Hey, I'm going to pay you an hour just to run a session on how to instruct this correctly. And they get an opportunity to be an educator, and it gives them an elevation above the everyday CrossFitter. And I think you'll find that approach then gives you a lot more power.
Yeah, that's something to do a lot more of. I think that's very good ideas.
And Belinda as well, going outside leaving 4017 and going across that bridge, and this is where it gets exciting, because you start to realize just how bloody good you are, and inside of your own box, it's one thing, but you can start to go and run workshops on technique outside of your catchment. And what it does, who do I want? I want to work for somebody who's a leader, who's not just an average bear, that's doing great stuff. So, for example, football clubs pre-season, running a lifting workshop for the Sandgate Hawks at the ground, giving your trainers an opportunity to use your business to do more exciting things than they could do by themselves. So I guess education for me is part of the offering, and there's nothing wrong with you running a clinic on a monthly basis, with running workshops, perfectly okay. So this is the realm that I'm living in. I'm in the education sector, but you guys also have the opportunity to tap into that sector as well, without crossing the boundary of being certification. You can do that if you like. CrossFit's got that all covered, level 1, level 2, but you can still run clinics and workshops and masterclasses and these sorts of things as well, and make them, if you want to, you can make them revenue generating as well. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap it up? No questions?
Have some of you guys don't.
No, I'm pretty happy. Thanks, Paul. Really appreciate it.
Cool. You're worth for my
Paul,
own.
if I could,
Yep.
sorry. This might be something that you guys have some insight on that's more curiosity of my own, but could you maybe speak to, or if you have any advice around determining coach ratios and how important that might be?
In terms of coach to member ratios?
Yeah, correct.
Not really. I think that comes down to the business model that you've got, and whether you're moving towards a boutique side of small groups, a higher touch point, into the mass side. I've seen both sides of it work quite well. I've seen several businesses start to really kind of move that around and try different models. 1-to-4 ratio is very, very popular in Sydney at the moment. Very popular in Sydney, in the Sutherland Shire. Yeah.
Wow, that seems really low.
Yeah, but they're paying $80 each per session.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So that's a boutique. It's like, you know, I don't want to have all those other people in. I just want to have the awesome trainer with my 3 friends, and that's it. I don't want any of those other guys in my session. I'm a high. So there's all these different models that are emerging in the boutique part as well, and also levels of trainer, and giving the better trainers a pathway to earning more money by allowing them to do, I guess, the more exclusive part of the business as well. 1-on-1, 1-on-2, 1-on-4.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
For my own benefit, I just wouldn't mind hearing, you know, what's the piece you're taking away from today? Like, what's the one piece of information you think was useful? I'll just go from Renee onwards, and we'll just hear.
For me, it'll be just putting some more stuff down on paper, like in terms of the organizational charts, and just getting, instead of having it running around in my head, or just I think about it, have it visual in front of me and on paper, so then I've got some better systems in place to work through for that.
Awesome. Jay Rabbit?
I think for me, I work for the government, and I work with my gym. It's really interesting because I think both worlds are very different. So with the government, you know, everything's very written, it's all on paper, where we don't really do a gym. And I think the biggest thing that really stands out, and probably has stood out for most of the sessions we've done, is that values base. So as long as you know what you stand for, you know your why, and then everything comes from that. That's kind of it seems to be the message I keep hearing, and it's nice because I guess we do that in our gym world, but Dan and I do that at Fierce, but I guess that is becoming less. Like, I don't see that very often. It's rare. And I certainly don't see that in my other job. So, it's just really nice to hear that that's what other people do, and they know their why and they stand for that, and that everything from how you run your business, how you do classes, how you get new members, how you employ staff, how you grow, all comes from that. So I really like hearing that. So thank you.
Even more so now, I think, you know, people are just really gravitating to places where they feel that they belong, but also believe in. And I think that's a huge part of what we're providing, is that there's some spirit and some soul in our business, and that's like a lot of this stuff's lifeless, you know, the corporate world, and it's all in documents and procedures and policies manuals, but there's nothing like being up close and personal with a really committed and passionate person, and that's what people want, and it's really important as a business owner, as a manager, leader, to take your time out to sharpen up, because you the good news and bad news of this is that if you're living if you're an inspiration to people will work for you for nothing. Like, not that they need to work for nothing, but it's people will flock to you because they just want to be around you, and that's not always an easy thing, you know. That's
right. I think that hit home too, and you said, you know, people will work for less if they value and believe what you're doing, and that personally applies for me.
Yeah, absolutely. People volunteer all the time for things because they give up valuable time, resources, because they go, I believe in what I'm doing, and it's a huge part of what drives. I mean, I know 4017 Catchment's got a strong sense of community down there, and so that's something you can really embrace, and it's something really unique that we have. Okay, Belinda.
A couple of things, actually. I guess, getting things down on paper a bit more. I do need to do with some processes and organizational structure. Being more vocal, I guess, about those core values too. I mean, I definitely do try and lead by example, but I guess being a bit more vocal about it could be good as well. And giving my coaches a little bit more. I really like the idea of, you know, maybe paying one of my coaches to do a trainer session and getting the coaches in and that kind of stuff. So
I think I know you pretty well, and I think you're now at the point where you need to kind of step outside. Like you've got a what do you call it? A leadership opportunity to speak beyond CrossFit about health and well-being
Mm.
outside of the active wear. I'm talking about
Yeah.
the comfort zone is inside. The discomfort zone is going back to where you came from and going to people that would not normally come to CrossFit. So they're in their workplaces and they're in their whatever meeting and talking about health and well-being. Well, that's for you.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about going to where J Rabbit's talking about government places like TAFE and talk about high performance and about winning, about community. All these themes that are just compelling.
Yeah, true.
And then your trainers who are technicians, they're all about the training at the moment. So you can, if you ran a strength and conditioning workshop for football coaches, right? So if you're a football coach and you're training with teens or you're training with whatever, we're going to run a workshop to teach you as the coach how to effectively get your team stronger. Now it feels counter. You think, oh, why would I do that? They're all going to go and just train without, coming to CrossFit. But it's actually the opposite. And you're saying, we're going to have the, Redcliffe Tigers come and they're about to do pre-season and we're going to get their coach and their coach will come and they'll do a strength and conditioning workshop for 3 hours on a Sunday morning. And one of your trainers will run it. Go, oh my God, I ran a strength and conditioning workshop, which is stuff that we do every day of the week anyway. And it starts to give them leadership identity and they'll stay with you only if you are someone that is giving them opportunities they couldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it can be a bit scary. You think, oh, hang on a minute, I'm sort of letting my people loose here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely know what you mean. And that has been a little bit of struggle along the way. I guess I've had to hand over a lot of things because my priority is my family, 2 young kids. So I want to be able to spend time with them. So how you have entrusted and handed over a lot to my trainers. So yeah.
And the step now is to really meet your trainers around their own goals and performance. And go, what are your goals for the month, mate? What are your 12-month goals?
That's what I think I need to be doing more of. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. What do you see yourself doing in 12 months? All right. What's 2020? Actually, now's a really good time, November. What's 2022 look like for you professionally? What do you want to be doing this time next year? And how can I help you do that? I'm a coach. And it might be a session at, one of the many coffee shops rather than being at the gym. And it's like just a chitty chat, and then you go, okay, well, let's, and you'll find they'll say the most amazing things, they need a way that they can explore their goals with your business. So your business has to be kind of providing that platform for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting timing, I think. And I think people, they'll never leave you if you're providing opportunities.
True.
But if you're just going, well, just stay or can you all just stay, keep doing what you're supposed to do? It doesn't take long before they start to go,
yeah,
well, it's just the same old stuff, I'm going to get toxic. So you don't have to work harder. You have to effectively flip it to being, now, okay, well, my role now is to help a group of 10 people achieve their goals through my business.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And it's actually one of the big values that you could put up there is that we have a culture of leadership. So all of our coaches are actually leaders.
Yeah.
And for some it might be, I remember when we started running conferences because we found that some of the personal trainers' lifetime goal was to speak at a conference. I'm like, that's easy, right? So okay, well, let me help you apply for a conference speaking thing. And they got that gig and I'm like, I'm there, I'll go with you. And I'm there doing their introduction. The next presenter is amazing, is a great coach, blah, blah, blah. And that was really easy to create our brand by unleashing people through our business that way. Thanks, guys, for your time. I think I've taken up the full time, so I want to make sure we don't run out of cassette tape.
Mhm.
Over to you, Hannah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I remove myself from mute and